Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation. Today, I'm going to try to tell you my experience of spending the last year and a half, spending more and more time around the command line, and why I came to like that, and hopefully give you some interesting tips. I work at Red Hat, but I do not run Linux. Nevertheless, being an open source guy, I like the hack way. I like the fact that one tool is super awesome and I can pipe it to another tool and so on and so on. So why did I start using the terminal? Because I came from Windows and I kind of liked Windows back in the days, a while ago. But my computer, the last one, was having a hard drive, like a spinning drive, and it was getting slower and slower all the time. And it was so atrocious that I decided to give up as much of the GUI on all of those, wheel spinning application as I could. So I migrated as much as I could in the terminal, including my emails, my IRC, and so on. On the email side, I came back partly on it, but you will see that I remained and I kept a lot of stuff in the terminal. I have to give you a warning. I'll give you some interesting tools to play with, and you will waste a lot of time on those because the learning curve is usually much higher because there's no easy discovery like you have in graphical UIs. That being said, I don't regret at all the time I spent on that because my workflow is is much more fluid. Things that I was doing in a step-by-step and having to switch context between, let's say, my IDE and then my web browser and then my terminal, all of that is kind of automated and I don't have to think about those context switching and just thinking about the higher level thing. And to be fair, it's a lot of fun to hack around files and not understanding what's going on. Everything is under the what the fuck license. I don't know if you can zoom, but the license is like that. There you go. Wow, it's going to be hard to read. It says, do what the fuck you want. So that's, should be easy enough. I didn't invent it, but it is the shortest license you could put. And on a script that is about that side, if the license is twice as big, it's just lame. So anyway, you can even browse right now on Github and look at the various scripts, because I will probably go a bit fast on some of them. So first, when you go into the command line, you need some fundamentals. Well, you need a terminal. I don't know about Windows and Linux, but on Mac, a lot of people like item2 for the windowing and painting and stuff like that. I do not use. I use the plain Apple terminal. I'll tell you why in a minute. And I also use something called Total Terminal, which is a plugin on top of Apple Terminal, which gives you something like that. Well, it doesn't show it very well, but usually it's about half my screen is filled up with a command line. I can do stuff, and then I can remove the command line and look at my IDE or my web browser. It's kind of a nice touch. The second thing you need to do is, oops, let me do that. The second thing you need to do is have a package installer, because command line tools are very small. They do one job, so you have a lot of them. If you start to have to maintain everything manually, it's just a mess. So if you're on Linux, you're good to go pretty much out of the box. On Windows, go use Cygwin. And on Mac, I highly encourage you to use brew. For example, here is the list of brew that I use. I don't want to maintain... Yes, thank you. I don't want to maintain all of these manually, right? So I just, every now and then, I do a brew upgrade. Usually nothing breaks, so that's good. There is just a humongous amount of things. Everything you can find on Linux, probably 3/4 of it you can find on Brewlist, so go ahead. And the other stuff I use is tmux, which is a terminal multiplexer. So it's like item2, but on the command line. So I'm here, for example, and you can see that I'm having at the like some kind of a menu down there. If I go here, that's my presentation. I've got well, that's a bit smaller than I expected, but what you can see here is I've got the actual file. On the left side, I've got something else. Maybe I can split it in two to do something. Zoom in. Do my ls. When I'm done with it, exit and go back. So that's one window where I do my presentation, one window where I do the demo, and I have also the notion of session, which is a set of windows that are separated in my working context. Here I'm doing the presentation, so I'm in the command line nuts context, but I could be in my communication context where here you see my IRC, well, a little bit of my IRC. There is also my email. If I'm doing some code, I'm here, right? So I can easily switch from different contexts and have my window already prepared. And once you have the memory muscle, you're pretty efficient at all of that. And of course, you need an editor. I use Vim. Well, I guess that's because it's the best editor. I don't know who are Emacs guys here. I couldn't really get the grasp of the meta key and control key and all that jazz. So I went for Vim. And the stuff I really enjoy with Vim is its consistency as far as mixing commands with one another. So the fundamental flexibility of Vim is about movements. I can go to the next word, to the end of the word, to the end of the line, to the next character, capital A, to the end of the paragraph, to the, I don't know, you name it, right? To a specific line. And that movement, I can basically combine it with an action. Delete everything from where I am all the way to the end of the movement. Delete everything from where I am to the end of the paragraph, for example, right? Here the example is delete. Go from where I am to the second dot in the line and delete everything in between. Of course, I can delete, I can change, I can copy, I can paste stuff, and so on and so on. Let's play with it. So I'm starting here. Of course, being in Vim, you can do a quick shortcut to find stuff. Here I'm just doing not a regex, but something akin to that. And let's open this file that is giving me some information. So, for example, I want stuff to fit into this very small screen. So maybe I want a way to say, hey, here is the limit I want to show. If I go above that, that's wrong. I should try and squeeze it in. The other thing is, this paragraph is actually literally too long. It goes over 2 lines for each line. So let's reduce it to these 80 characters. So I go into visual mode, which is capital V, then go to the end of the paragraph and decide to do GQ, which means refactor it, right? Re-put it when how I wanted it to. You also have the opposite, which is, hey, these several lines are actually a single line. Capital J will do that for you. Right, so it's a lot of nice, very interesting stuff you can learn over time with Vim. There is an actual spell checker. You can see very, which is wrong. You can use the spell checker to actually manually update it, but here I will use a regular expression. So I'm saying on everything in the file, I could select sub part of the file, but here everything in the file I want to replace very with very. Boom, I'm done, right? So all of the kind of nice tools, you can literally use them on your files, which is super interesting. The other awesome stuff for people like us doing code is, so by the way, I typed F and then quote. I'm going right to the quote. And I want to replace this quote. So how do you do that in your editor? Think about it. How do I do it? I do change the inside of quote. Boom, it removes everything, put me in insert mode, and I can say, hello, Devox. I could even say change the inside, CI, parentheses, and then I replace that stuff with, let's say, my string. Not string, you're kidding. Easy. Let's see the actual spell checker. So I'm going to the next word that is having a problem, and Z is the keyword for the spell checking. Z equal, give me alternatives, and then I'm shooting word, and it replaces it. And that's on a single file, right? What can I do to update several files at a time? Well, first of all, I've got this nerd tree. I was struggling with that problem in Vim for a while until I found and used nerd tree, which is literally the left pane you got in a lot of the editors. So here, say I want to edit license, I can open it. I can open it in a separate pane in parallel or in a different pane. I can do pretty much everything I want here. And the other interesting thing is, now that I've learned Vim, I want to make use of it everywhere. One area is the actual command line. So you need to put a .input rc file with the editing mode as vi, and let's see what I can do. Oh, sorry. Let's see what I can do on the command line. Do you guys see it? Yeah, it's a bit nasty. How many times did you have to actually do back to try and fix something, right? Instead, if you know well, it doesn't show very well. I'm sorry about that. Maybe I should. Let's do that down to 18. Do you guys still see it, or is it a bit hard? Okay. That way is okay? Okay. All right. So here, I need to change something like the maybe the delete. I need to remove it. I can do that, right, and get bored of it. Or I can use the vim command and then say, go to the next word, go to the next word, remove this word, and I'm done, right? So it's very nice to be able to edit your command line that way. And of course, I can remove it. All right. Dot files. So you need to, I mean, all of those command line tools tend to have dot files, dot something, dot vim, rc, dot whatever. That is about their configuration. A lot of people like me actually store them in a Git repo so that I can move the same dot files from one machine to another without having to, and having the same environment on both. Let me show you quickly some of them. Where are my dot files? There you go. So I've got all of those. I won't go into the details of all of those, unfortunately. Let me show you one thing I do in my bash file is, there you go, here. So I've got a key, like an IDRSA key, right? And the first time I start my terminal, this test says, whoops, I don't find any key in the SSH agent, so let me ask you for your password, and I type my password. The next time, he won't ask me. So it's a nice way for me, when I start after a reboot of the computer or something like that, to get access to the, ask me my password for my ID key and then be done with it. Now, the other one I wanted to show you is, it's in .ssh/config. It's a way to kind of have a shortcut on the host you want to access to. So if I do ssh nas, what's happening is it's equivalent to ssh Emmanuel at nas-034.internal.blah blah blah -e the identity file that I'm using and potentially a custom port and so on. So it's very nice to be much faster that way. And also, it works for every tool that is using SSH. So for example, if you're using rsync that is using SSH for remote access, you can also use those shortcuts. These are not real, so don't try and hack your stuff. Cool. The other thing is, and that's where the bash side comes from, you need to automate everything that you can do. Every time you see repeatable step, try and automate it. It could be with bash, which I tend to like and love, because it's very easy to Google stuff and find something, and very easy to execute those command line tools. But if you want to use something else, that's fine too. But try and automate those repeatable steps to reduce the amount of context switching and details you have to remember. Evil bash tips, somebody recommended me to basically plug it. I don't know what it is, so I'm not responsible. But hopefully it will help you to learn stuff. Let's zoom into the actual code and improvements in this area. Not that way, that way. The first stuff I do, for example, that I've automated in a bash script is, remember when, let's say you're coding something and you got some changes, and as you can see, you cannot see it, but if I do a git status, some file has changed here. Well, changelog here, it won't be a problem, but if I do a mvn clean install here, and I've done some change locally, and the test passed, and I forgot to commit those changes, and I push that, then it doesn't work, because what I push is not my current environment, but what I have literally committed. So to avoid that problem, what I do is I have a script that will literally clone this repository locally, then go to the right branch, and then run the mvn clean install, which is going to be clean. I know for sure that it's a clean clone and stuff are running on it. I don't know why it's super slow here, but you will see in a second or two that there you go. The cloning is done. Usually it's much faster. I don't know what's going on. And then my stuff runs. The other stuff I want to show you is, by the way, if you don't know where something called something is, you do which remote and it should show you where it is. Here that's the remote script. And if I go at the very end of the script, there is this say command that is executed. That is, if I'm on Mac, it uses growl notify to notify me as literally a notification at the top in the UI. If I'm on Linux, it uses notify sent. If somebody has a Windows version, just send me a patch and I'll apply it. Cool. Let's have this stuff running and focus on the rest. In your IDE, use the IDE that is working best. For me, everything but Celen and Java, I use Vim. But for Java and Celen, I kind of like, IntelliJ IDEA, for example. But I still like the power of Vim and the ability to move stuff and do operation on the files, on the actual text. So I use plugins that are emulating the Vim commands on top of my IDE. So it's my regular IDE, except that I have my Vim commands. IDEA Vim is the one that works quite well for IDEA, and wrapper with a V is working quite well for Eclipse as well. Git, first of all, go and read ProGit, the book. It's free online. You will know the insides of Git, and once you know the inside, you know Git perfectly, instead of trying to guess what this mysterious command is doing. And a lot of people tend to like UIs on top of Git. I hate it. I go to straight command line, and I know what is going on, and I know what I'm going. But to be faster, I will use aliases and shortcuts and stuff like that. You can even write your own Git custom command. So if you have a script that is named git dash something, then if you do git space some, and then you can autocomplete it into something, and it will execute probably some more complex stuff that takes some information from the environment, execute a couple of Git commands and things like that. I do use a graphical tool for Git. It's named Tig, and it's actually in text mode. It's very nice to do what I call surgical commits. But instead of explaining that to you, I'll actually do a demo. It will probably much easier. So let's go back here. I'm in my environment. Let me first show you some of the aliases I use. So to create a branch and checking out something, CB instead of checkout -B, a lot of interesting things like that. Everything I do quite often, I use an alias. A tree is nice. It's a way to show the branches in a graphical mode. The reason why lots of people use an actual UI. So if I do git tree here, I've got the alternative universe branch. I see the master branch, the upstream master with different color. I can navigate. It's quite nice and useful enough. So let me create a new branch for DevOps, and let's start to hack some stuff. Let's say the SSH config file. I'll do NAS34. I made a mistake here. It should be, whoops, it should be Bob. And here should be production. There you go. I'm saving. I'm ready to do my commit, but if I look at my diff, I'm not super happy because it mixes two different stuff. The username changes, let's say, something related to production, and the host is really something fancy for me to be faster in my local machine. So what I can do is using this Tig, which looks a bit like what I was showing with Git tree, and I don't use it for that. I use it to actually work on your staging staging area and push it from your local area to the staging area before a commit. So of course I can select the file I want to push, and here this one I can zoom in and decide, you know what, I'm only interested first into committing this line and this line. And if I go here, that's exactly the commit I want, the micro commit I want. It's not microservices, it's the micro commit. So update, logging, Save that, and then I can actually commit the rest and say update, for what it was, I guess shortcuts, right? I'm good. I'm ready to push that. Ooh, I forgot to create the branch devox, so I don't know what happened. Yes, but I didn't move to it. I wanted to show you something nice, which is how I send a pull request to GitHub. So I do git send pull request, which is a script or somebody else has written, actually, that does several things. From the environment, it gets the actual branch name, it gets the project, and then it says upstream is where you want to send a pull request to, and your local name, Emmanuel, is your actual local remote commit. And it will push the change to your local remote commit, so it's there, and then open up the right page. So here I messed up, but imagine it's opening the right pull request stuff. So in one step, I say I want to do a pull request, and it does it for me. Instead of me having to not forget to push the branch, then open GitHub and find the pull request button, and so on and so on. So I really like that stuff. Cool. I'm kind of done with the code side of things. I do backups. I'm like a backup nut. I back up to my NAS. My NAS is backup locally to files, other drives, and I even go to my parents and switch drives every now and then. So I should be safe. And I use rsync for just about everything. So forget the higher level tools. There is nothing you cannot do with rsync. This one is interesting. It does kind of it's the basic component to do like a time machine like feature. It says, and look at the last line. It says, I want to copy from source to destination, from source to backup / timestamp, but instead of copying everything to timestamp, look at backup / last and only copy the files that have changed. If the file haven't changed between backup / last and backup / timestamp, as it would be, just do a hard link on the file that haven't changed. So A, it's much more compact, and B, it's much, much faster. Let me try and do a super fast demo of this stuff. I've got an example directory, which is very simple, and I've got my backup directory that contains my timestamp stuff plus a symlink to the most recent copy of my backup. By the way, Control R, it's a way to look at your history by some keywords. So this one, I'm going back. So I've run it's a script that does a bit more than, but fundamentally it's the rsync that I was describing, except it does the right timestamping and so on. So if we look at backup here, you see that the timestamp is right now, so that's cool. So let's copy, let's say, a new file to this example directory, and not change the vim.adoc file, right? And let's run the backup again. Is it this one? Yes. If I now go to backup, first of all, I see that there's been a new one. And if I zoom into it with something called -e, which shows the inode number, if I 2014, 11, 10, 18, 29, 25. So that's the second to last backup. It only had Vim, and you see the inode number. And let's use the very last one. And you see that not only there is SSH config as I expected, but also that the Vim adoc file has the same inode number as the one before. So there is no duplication here. I've been using that for like more than a year, and somebody that started this script has been using that as well, so it's safe, I guess. I didn't actually also had to restore, so you can trust me a bit more than that. Cool, and I went all in when my computer was really slow. For example, I used Mutt, which is a command line way to read your emails and have different inboxes and navigate. I'll still use it and like it to parse my email in a super fast way. To be honest, I use Apple Mail half the time, especially for the search side of things. So Mutt is in 3 ways. So Mutt will read a local copy of your emails and say, okay, here is the view. So there is no slowness because you're synchronizing your directory or something like that. Then you need offline IMAP, which every now and then will sync what's on your IMAP and this local directory that Mutt relies on. And I also use something called Smtp Queue, which is a small script that will try to send the email, and if I'm offline, just put it in a queue. And next time I try to flush the queue and there is a network, we'll push that set of emails. Again, you can go to GitHub/Emmanuel Bernard. You will see all of those, either scripts or configuration files. I use WeChat, which is a command line IRC. Being in the command line with my different session and environment, I'm happy. I don't have to go to this UI stuff, and I quite like it. I also use a bouncer, so I don't know who is using IRC a lot here. Well, I guess not so interested to a lot of people, but I use the ZNC as a bouncer, so even when I'm off, it's logging somewhere on a different machine, and when I log to this bouncer, and I get the history of things that have happened since then. So it's a bit like the backup and history of Skype and things like that. That's all from me. Invest in that, even if it feels like you will lose a lot of time, especially at the beginning. You will feel happier by automating all of those steps and having less context switching when you're working on something. So I really enjoyed that. And since I have a few more minutes, let me show you some other scripts that I use. So we've seen this one. This one is encrypting, as you could expect. This one is interesting. So I can do Jira and then the keyword of Jira, and I do have a set of predefined. Hold on. Sorry. Well, that's the funny part. Is like sometimes things don't happen as you expect. There you go. I've got a set of Jira servers and a set of project codes, and if they match, I will literally go and open the Jira in my browser with the right URL. So it's a nice way to be a bit faster. The other thing I like is to kill stuff by name and not by PID. So it's you basically do first a search on the PS aux and then find the right one, and you got the list and you say which one do you want to kill, and then it kills them. Say again? pgrep for that? Okay, so an alternative is to use pgrep, and you don't even have to write that script. That's what you're saying, huh? All right, but I did it myself. The other one is upsert. So I do a lot of pull request reviews. So what I do is say git upsert the remote. Let's say Gunnar is the guy I'm reviewing. So git upsert Gunnar, the branch I'm looking for. It will tell me, oop, there is already a branch with that name. Do you want to override it locally? I'm saying yes, usually. And I get the latest version, and then I can review it. So it's a bit faster than the few steps you have to do with Git, like let's remove first the branch if it exists, otherwise it will yell at me, and so on and so on. That's all I have. Yes?
How do you set the relative position from the current line in Vim?
That's a good question. If you look at my .vim rc, you will see. Search for relative in this file. If we look at the dot file, there you go. It's quite nice because then you can do J2 to move to the second line instead of going to the absolute line. It's a nice trick. Yes?
How do you get the git information into the command line?
Say again?
How do you get the git information? You're in the master.
Yeah, so there are much better tools than what I use, but if you go to my bash profile, look for PS something, there you go. No, it's this, not this one. It's this. So Git, you see there is, first of all, a completion path that gives you the Git auto-completion, and they have also a script, a prompt path that gives you that kind of information. Maybe one last question? Yes?
Have you tried mobile shell?
Say again?
Have you tried mobile shell?
Mobile shell? No, I haven't tried. I haven't tried either ZSH, which apparently is also awesome. So I didn't want to break my presentation, so after tomorrow I can start breaking my environment and try new things. Indeed. Thank you very much, guys, for being here. I hope you enjoyed it.